know, if you want to manipulate something like, let's say Thunderbot, we realize there's a bug in all the robot code because all the robots do some weird things. So then we go into class robot and we would change it and it would fix everything in all the following ones. So it's a nice way to, whereas if we like just copied and pasted a whole bunch of different robots with the same code, we'd have to change every single one we copied and pasted. This makes it a whole lot easier because all we have to do is go to class robot, change the code in here, and it'll fix it for all of them. So we only have to make one change instead of 18 different changes if we had 18 different robots. So this makes our life a lot easier. So it's good to have the robot, or it's good to have a base class and then figure out where the base class ends and the new class begins for a new type. The rest, let's see, class robot, inheritance, looks good. So just to reiterate, you create a new class by going to typing in class and then the name of the class you want. You put an end somewhere thereafter to define where the code ends, where the robot basically ends and where it begins. So we do robot.new in order to create a new robot, and we do class Thunderbot less than a robot in order to inherit the robot or everything inside this here behavior and settings. So robot.new, very easy. The rest is, hold on. The rest is basically, if you hear any weird sounds, roommates tend to pop in and out, so don't worry too much about that. Def robot. Yes, you're gonna have a lot of JS crossover between Ruby and JavaScript, which is nice. So let's see. Our next one is class robot, robot.new. I'm going to teach you guys how to do a global variable, which very useful, very helpful. If I go this $sign here, so this $sign tells the game that we are creating or using or referencing a global variable. Now, a global variable can be accessed by anything, anywhere. So anything can change this. The naming should be rather unique so that you don't overlap and have conflicting variables where you accidentally create two variables, name the same thing, and just end up messing up a whole bunch of stuff. You don't want that. So make sure you use a $sign and then a very unique name. So let's call this one, let's see, basic steel robot. So we use a $sign followed by what we want to name it. Make sure you don't have any spaces or symbols inside it. Make sure it's either, I think you can have numbers in it. That one, let's double check. If I put 2 3s in here and it freaks out. No, you could probably have numbers in it too. So basically, as long as you have numbers or letters, numbers, no unallowed symbols. The same symbols you can't use in Hotmail name or email name or a whole bunch of different other things you probably can't use in this. So if I typed in basic steel, oh wait, using that, no, that, no, where's my $sign? There, no, percent, basic steel robot, this would not be correct because it would think that only this part is the global variable. So you can't do that. You can't use an @ sign in there. I'm pretty sure you can, at least. I've never actually tried, but for the sake of not losing your mind when you go from one scripting language to another, avoid throwing symbols and weird other things, spaces, into variable names. So your best bet is just to keep it very simple. So here we have basic steel robot. $sign says that it's a global variable and that we're declaring it. So after that, we follow a equal sign. This is actually equal says that we're setting this variable to a new value, and the value is anything you want. So you could do a word, which is also called a string. So you could do that. String could be names, they can be a whole bunch of things. So anything basically that you want to display as a word. So you can use a string. You can use a let's see, what else? You can use a number. So let's say I want it to be 5. I just type 5, so now it saves it as a number. We can do a bunch of things. I'm trying to think of some of the most basic things that we can save this as. Save it as a switch, or what is called in scripting a boolean. So basically a boolean, which is also known as a script in eventing, or a switch in eventing. If you, just to refresh your guys' memory, let's see, a switch is either on or off. So the Ruby scripting does not recognize on or off. Also, welcome to Neo Cascami. There's a whole bunch of people with very Japanese sounding names. To be fair, the origins of RPG Maker are in Japan. So let's see, basic steel robot, on off. So your booleans or your switches, you're probably familiar with the on off of switches. Those translated into coding terminology are basically on, true, off, false. So every time you set a switch to on, it's setting it in scripting to true, or to code encoding to true. Every time you turn it off, you set it to false. So now, as you can see, the code is recognizing it. It turns it blue. These are booleans. If you ever run across the word boolean, then you will know that that just means true or false. In coding, it's basically one thing or another. So 0 or 1, it's very simple. 0 or 1, true, false, on, off. However you want to think of it, it's either one thing or another, but never both. So very simple. On, off, true, false is what you're going to use, though. You're always going to use true, false. No matter how you think of it, you have to use true, false when coding. So I could set this to true. And these will become important. What you set it to is going to become important later on. So one of the cool things that I can do, one of the most important things that I'm going to actually do, is that I can save a class, a new class, as the variable, which you're going to need to do this. Otherwise, you can't reference the class. So as you remember in robot.new right here, you're basically declaring a new robot, but you're not storing it anywhere. You're not putting it somewhere where we can look at it and change it and manipulate it. So right now we create it, but it's just floating off into space, doing nothing. There's no way for us to go back and access it. So that's not a good thing. We want to be able to access that. So in order to access our new robot, we need to save it to a variable. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but one of the ways, since we don't have, we need to save it to a variable, and there's a bunch of different variables that we can save that to. Due to the way we're doing it right now, the global variable is the best variable to use. So we're using this global variable. Now variables, they are pretty simple. All they do is store a single piece of information, and we're going to get into more complex ones later, but for now, variable simply stores a single piece of information. And that single piece of information can be whatever you want. A number, a class, a word, anything. So variables, simple as that, store a single piece of information. So in this case, we want to store the new robot. So robot.new. That'll make it so that all we have to do is use basic steal robot when we are referencing our robot that we just created. So there, class robot, class thunderbot, easy. So now we are able to save our new class, and now we can reference it. We can say, hey, this particular robot needs to be updated. We can do things like that. So with that in mind, let's start building our robot. We already know what variables do. So I taught you guys the global variables. We can take a quick break right now because you've probably learned quite a bit, even in this little small part right here. It's funny how much you'll end up learning. I'm going to go ahead and reiterate, go back over everything with you guys real quick so that you're not lost. So let's go over this part right here, all this again. Real quick recap. So a class basically stores a whole bunch of information about something. It determines a lot of its behaviors. It contains a lot of information about it. It determines what it can and can't do. So we start with class robots, class followed by the name of what we want to name the class. And then somewhere after that, we put end. Whenever all our code is done, we just do end, and it tells this that we're no longer defining all the behaviors and information and everything else about it. So class robot, and then it ends. So that's a very simple way. Classes are basically the building blocks of everything we're going to do. So we want to know how to do classes and understand what classes are. So basically, class is what holds all the information. The cool thing about classes is that we can create a new class using robot.new, or basically the name of the class and then followed by a dot and then new. And you don't have to do this, but I usually put parentheses around it after new, just a small parentheses open and close. The reason I do that is because it's common in a lot of languages, and it also helps in case we need to just type something, pass something in. I'll explain that later, so right now you don't have to worry about passing. So now we created the class, and then I went and talked about inheritance, which is what this little guy is when it's in the class name, the less than sign. It's actually an inheritance symbol when it's inside the class name. So we're saying that Thunderbot is going to inherit all the behaviors, definitions, everything, the variables, everything about robot. It's going to receive that, and then we can start creating more information that only Thunderbot gets. It'll have all the stuff that comes inside class robot, right? And we won't, if we start making, say, a class Firebot. If we make a class Firebot and a class Thunderbot off of the robot, and both of these start having weird issues, that the same issue and it's weird, we can go into class Robot and alter the code in class Robot to make it work, and it will change it for all of these. So we're going back over that, explain that real quick. So it's very convenient. We can change one thing here instead of having to change all the code in every single different kind of robot we made. So it's very, very simple. Helps a lot. We definitely want to get into the practice of inheritance. You don't actually have to ever use it. It's just extremely helpful and extremely useful to have it. So that explained that. We explained how to create a new robot using robot.new in order to create a new new class instance or a new